So we can safely call you reverse coconut.
Yes, that's perfect. I like it.
So tell us, what was it like being, I don't know if that's really a racist sort of remark, but being a white-skinned girl in growing up in India and a woman also. What was it like? Any experiences?
I really was this odd kid because I had really blonde hair as a kid and white, and I was in a small village called Periyamudalla Chavadi. So everyone.
Even I can't say that.
It was South Indian proper, for me it was. I think that as a very young child, I don't remember being discriminated by the other kids. I think it was more the adults and how adults looked at you and separated you. And of course, with puberty and everything, you being the white girl, when my friends and I would go to Kovalam beach or, one of these hippie areas, it was always me who got asked for the drugs or, hit on by the guy because I was, seen as that Baywatch ladki or whatever. They have a reference of what a white girl should be like. So I had to, and then I would give it back, in Tamil, and they'd be like, then they'd get even more excited, which was not good. So I had to fight my way through that stereotype. But I think even whatever your skin color, just being a girl, the gaze is so strong in India, the male gaze. You're constantly thinking about how you're stepping out. When I go to New York in the summer, I don't need to wear a bra. And it's such a liberating feeling, And here, you won't even think of it. You limit yourself all the time because, I'm going to Lucknow. Okay, I'm going to take my salwar, So we have to limit ourselves because of things, but. In a way, I also think you have to consciously make an effort to be like, no, I have to be sensible, but I also have to be myself. And, draw some lines there and push those limits of who you are, what you want to represent. I think it's really a constant effort for a woman to have to do that.
Sandeep, moving on to you. You said you grew up in a family of very empowered women. So I'm sure, even if I don't know where you grew up, which city did you grow up in?
So I was born in Bhopal and my dad was in BHL.
This is pertaining to the whole country. You all see it all the time, where women are suppressed or an incident, something that you want to talk about, and especially being from an empowered house where you have women who are so powerful, so strong. I grew up with a lot of powerful, strong women around me, and some of the things that used to happen around me used to really bother me.
Yeah. So for me, I would like to give two examples. One was where it's a very positive example, and this happened just a month back when I was in Punjab. So my grandparents are in Punjab. So my Mausi, my aunt actually, she's invested close to, 50 lakhs per granddaughter. She has two granddaughters. Both of them have gone to Canada for studies. And she was talking to them. I just went, I went because it's very difficult to get time. So I had gone to, my mother was there, so I had to go and get her back. So I entered the house and she was talking to a granddaughter in Canada. She's studying there. She's working at airport during 3 hours what she get. And they were asking, why did you send your granddaughters to, Canada? You are living in a very small village in Punjab, wherein everybody is looking at, marrying of the daughters after some basic education and all. She said, I'm very clear, for me, because she herself was a librarian. And she is very clear in her thought that for a family evolution to happen in the right way, it's very, very important that everyone is empowered. So two granddaughters, she's invested close to 1 crore on them because the study, that's the kind of amount you have to invest when the kids have to go and study in Canada. And then she was talking to them, finish your study, and then you have to get you have to apply for your medicine course in US. So, sitting in a small corner, I see a woman empowering, a lady who is around 75, 80 is empowering her granddaughters because she believes that, she may have another 10, 15 years, but she wants the family evolution forever to happen in a very, very positive way. This is a very happy, positive example. There are examples where I could see one side of my relative, really not allowing the daughters to study and then marrying them off. And then you see, when you speak to your cousin sisters, when you go and talk to them, you feel, okay, they were here, they lived a life, but not a kind of life.
But let's stick to happy stories. Let's stick to good stories.
So in fact, when we were discussing this campaign, I said, this is a very happy example on this. Please, do something around this. And this is all, so we were looking at examples, positive example, because that's how we want to convey to the audience that, we have to contribute. Today, talking is something, but eventually, as a brand, as a citizen of the country, we have to do our bit. and that's very important.
Some background to that. Around the time that we wrapped turning 30, I was at my village, which is in district Fatehgarh Sahib. Sandeep would know that. And I, was talking to the local DC. We were having a conversation about what's going on, and I was shocked to find out that my district, as per the 2001 census, had the lowest sex ratio in all of India.
Wow.
And that somehow, I was 30 then, and it really shook me up, because here I was with all the opportunity in the world from this village, and I didn't seem to think there was anything in the world that could limit me. And yet the same district that I belonged to, Fatehgarh Sahib, had the lowest sex ratio. And that really got me anxious and stressed, and I figured I need to do something about it. And that's when I set up this foundation called the Colonel Shamsher Singh Foundation. It was named after my grandfather, who was then living. And because I just felt, if nothing else, I need to start doing something about it. It's called, what I call it, the guilt and privilege that one carries of accident of birth. Because if it weren't for accident of birth, I probably would have been born in a different home in the same village Mahadiya, and maybe I would have been producing a lot of girls trying to try for a boy, or maybe worse, not letting them be born. And that was the reality of that area. Fortunately for us, and not because of anything that society at large has contributed to, but another district has now beaten us, so we're no longer the lowest sex ratio in the country. But that for me was the inflection point where I decided to get down and do something about it in my own limited capacity, because I felt the accident of birth was the reason where I was, not because of there being a uniform playing field. So that's, we work specifically on gender equality. We take accomplished women like Meghna, like Kalki, to talk to women in villages, because they feel when they grow old, who will take care of them. And the whole idea is to try and reach out to them. We do public-private partnership with the district health authorities to try and get this message across. It's a long message going, but yes, I think it's beginning to show results. A lot of people are now investing in education. There is a man in my village who is a daily wage mason, and I got chatting with him. There was some work going on. I was at the village again for some foundation work. And so I said, what's going on? Catching up in Punjabi. So he said, I want to marry my daughter, and the family that we identified, because it's so rare to find an eligible bachelor in Punjab today who's not addicted to drugs. So he said, I found this boy, but he wants a Scorpio. So he said, what? I'm going to raise that money, but I'm going to send my daughter to study with that money. So he was also looking for ways in which to send his daughter overseas, and he was trying to work things out, and there were other NGOs that stepped forward to help. But here is a man who understood the requirement that rather than raise all this money and go into debt, I'm a daily wage mason, I might as well raise this money and invest in my daughters rather than buy that Scorpio, which will not achieve much.
Stories that still exist in our country. So I'm going to open it up to all you guys. Anyone wants to ask any of our panelists any questions, want to say anything about? There you go, great.
Why injustice to women?
Men.
Especially in metropolis and all.
I don't have the figures, but I'm pretty certain that that's not the case, where unemployment is tilting towards men more than it is towards women. And in fact, there was a recent study more women are getting into secondary education and colleges, but more women are dropping out of the workforce than in the last 10 years. There's been a huge jump. So from 2005 to now, more women are leaving the workforce in India. So about 49% of rural women were working in 2005, and the percentage is now around 36. So, I'm like I said, I'm certain that that's not the case. And anyways, I think the discussion today is about how we can sort of achieve a balance between the two. It's not really, and that's never the intention to do men versus women. That's very juvenile, and that's not the idea. The idea is to look at how we can create an equal society, which is empowering for everybody. Right? So
and other thing, there is a case going, many cases going in our society, in our Biradari also, So much power is given to women that on her saying, their full families being imprisoned unnecessarily without asking.
Actually,
Please, anybody can.
sir, you're referring to Section 498 of the Indian Penal Code, which is no doubt a very powerful piece of law. And I'm going to try and answer it as honestly as I can. There is misuse of 498, and there's no doubt about that. And it's unfortunate. But the number of people who've actually been benefited by 498 in rural areas, where women are in a very poor position in the home of their husband because of exactly dowry, is very disturbing. Now, is the law misused? Yes. But is it required? Also yes. I think when the lawmakers get together to make a law, and this is of course based on the founding principles of the modern state, when social contract of Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau, which is what laid the foundation of the modern day state system, was the greater good. So are you trying to benefit more people or harm more people? If there is a law that actually achieves greater good with some unfortunate cases of misuse, I think it works out in balance. However, on the cases of misuse, there has been some efforts of a lot of NGOs to try and make those found guilty of misuse punishable and culpable under newer laws that are being made, which are going to be annexed to that particular law. So the punishment and culpability for those who misuse sections like the 498 should be very high, so other educated women, because it's the educated ones that are using it, don't use it.
Anybody else?
That social media, we talk a lot more on social media than we do in life. We feel like we've saved half the world on Facebook in half a day by saying, supporting 20 causes, but actually, what are we doing on the ground level? But I think that, things have to start somewhere. You cannot silence a cause. Yes, hashtags maybe, maybe 70% of hashtags are just hashtags, but those 20% make a difference. There are 20% of those women who use the hashtag, or people who use the hashtag and actually go out and do it, go out and loiter, and go out and support a cause or change laws, or even as simple as in your daily life, if you're in an office job or whatever job you're in, what do you choose? It makes a difference. Women always ask me, how can I support the cause of women? And I said, support yourself. Because, if you're empowering yourself in your workplace, if you're standing up for that little misogynistic, joke that's happening, you're already making a change. Yes, it might not, feel like a big change, but if everybody does that every day, it is making a change. So small steps and constantly bringing up the conversation is the way forward. And of course, it's easy to be jaded by social media. I think that a lot more is said than done on social media. But it has also cut out the middleman. It has also made that people can be themselves. Like if I want to correct something that's misquoted about me, I can do it on my Twitter. And all in all, I think cutting out the middleman, cutting out that anyone being able to speak about what they really think is as Gul was saying, the greater good,
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, if you see what is the most, like I come from an advertising background, right? So what works is messages when they're repeated. There's a reason why all of these, all brands really repeat messages, right? And I think the same sort of idea is that if you repeat the conversation and it's constantly active and it's constantly happening around you, that's what affects you. And then you start to make small changes within your limited sphere of influence, right? So you may not see it, but it's happening with every individual person in their own limited sphere of influence. And like she said, it'll take a while where you start to see a large, drastic change happening, but it's starting and it is happening, and social media contributes to that in a big way.
You know, and I'm using that, I'm removing the time frame here, because when you say you don't find changes happening immediately and people don't contribute meaningfully, if you look at, if you remove the time reference frame here and look at a very larger period of time, any change in society, anthropologically, has to start by first acknowledging the problem exists. So it starts with discussion, debate, discourse. That is when people become aware of it. Right now, a few of us may be aware of it, but each time, say, you use that hashtag, maybe somebody who wasn't aware of what was happening actually becomes aware of it. I experienced that 2 days ago when I added on to the dress like an Indian woman, otherwise you'll get PCOD. Thing that was going on, 2 days ago. So one is that discussion, debate, dialogue is the first step towards change. The second point is that any change in society takes 3 generations. The first generation becomes aware of it. The second generation actively does something about it, and the third generation reaps benefits. So it's always a long process. Lastly, when there is dialogue, discussion, debate on a particular subject, people's awareness increases, then over the course of time, one can look towards affirmative action, both from civil society and maybe legislative. Just to give you a small example, not too long ago in history, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was one of the social reformers who pushed the cause of trying to ban things that probably were not so unacceptable back in the day. And finally, it was the work of multiple social reformers that got sati banned. And if you were to look at it today, there's no reason for sati to have happened. But it took social reformers of that period, then followed by aggressive legislation. It took over 100 years before legislation was passed, that too by the British, to ban sati. But the life cycle of any change is unfortunately that, and what social media is doing is contributing towards chatter, yes, but is also making more and more people aware of what we're talking about. And I think that's really, really important, because if the change that we want to see is going to happen 3 generations from now, which is 45 years, 15, it has to start now.
Colors, knitwear, and social responsibility. So the social responsibility has been built in from day one. So when Mr. Benetton started this journey, when he was, supplying garments from door to door, and when he started his journey 60 years back, somehow he felt that, it's very important that as a brand, we have to be socially responsible, and socially responsible in the right way. That was very, very clear. So when you look at the history of the brand, it's always about being socially responsible in the right way. And yes, there may be things which are happening in the society, which tend to give some speculation, or on which the brand can. So we be very clear. We want to work in a way. We want to conduct ourselves in a way that we are linked to the right causes in the right way. That's the. So we don't want to just this come up, so just grab this and look at selling your garments. No, never. There's a $2 billion euro organization globally, and it's always conducted itself in the right way. It's not looked at that, okay, this year was bad, so we are not getting the right revenue, so look at some topic and start talking about it. No, it's never been like that. So you will see our approach during last 60 years to be very, very consistent and right. We have never tried looking at anything which is like a small opportunity to grab and sell garments. No, never. So as a clothing a conglomerate or a giant, we are very, very clear, right sort of topics, which, so idea is to act as enabler, to contribute towards society in the right way. Talk about right topics and contribute towards the evolution of society. As Gul said, 3 generations. So today when you look at why sati existed, it's a very basic question. So a lot of such things are there. So we have to be very, very clear, and we have to keep contributing. That's the way we're looking at it.
All the pressure and everything, and when it comes to a woman, if I have my share of savings, it has to be a choice. Oh, should I spend on my fancy marriage or the startup? I mean, why do you think as women we always have to be we have to believe in ourselves, whereas men are supported so much? We have to be so self-assuring ki no, we'll be able to do it. So why is it that we have to have that for us, whereas when it comes to men, people are there, always supporting them and saying, they can do it. Just to everyone. That is the basis of a patriarchal culture, right? So that's the whole point of when men and women sort of are supposed to support that journey. And they're not really. Zoya Akhtar,
Shonali Bose. I'm working with Rakhi Sandhulia right now on a film about maternity leave and women in the workforce. Who else have I worked with? My DOP was Anne Messiah on Margarita with a Straw. I don't know why, I'm attracting a lot of female directors, and we are less, for sure, there are fewer female directors. So, I mean, I also know that that's maybe because of the work I do, the things I choose, people kind of find that like they have something similar to say. I feel what's really missing still in our industry is in commercial cinema is that the writing is still very hero-based. Our writing is still based on uplifting the hero. If there's a heroine in the film, she is usually uplifting and supporting the hero. And it's still the exception to have a film like Piku or Queen, where the heroine is the uplifter of the movie. And I think, it would be great to see more writing where sometimes where the woman is the hero, but also sometimes where the woman is the villain, or the woman is playing, very ordinary characters where we, like a driver, like me and Gula are motorbikers, and everyone finds that like shocking, a girl on a bike, but why is that not a norm? So, I think representing women in cinema outside of the stereotype of the virginal beauty or, the vamp, sexy item girl. I mean, seeing women in just ordinary jobs doing what they do in that is really important, and I think that begins with writing. So it's important to look out for those kind of stories.
Good, you want to add anything to that?
Piku, Turning 30, which Purnabha.
Gul was the protagonist and I sat behind on a motorbike with her.
But I think, again, I just want us to speak of things in a larger frame. The fact that the change is beginning now, and the fact that there is a lot of writing which is well, not a lot, but there is a certain percentage of writing that is seeing women in the myriad roles they actually play in society: a corporate honcho, a pilot, a doctor, a driver. And I think that change has begun, and we'll only begin to see results, in 15, 20 years, or maybe faster. But it's unrealistic to expect any change in a time frame that's lesser than that. But if we keep asking these questions, if we keep having these conversations, that change will surely come. Or if we get up and say, we ask all these questions, no change ever came, what the hell? Then it's not going to happen. So the idea is for us to constantly keep questioning what's happening around us, talk about it. The more we talk about it, the more change will permeate into society, not just the film industry, but the corporate world and society as a whole, because ultimately cinema is a mirror of what's happening in society. Society begins to have equal participation of women, then you will see more participation of women in storytelling. And last but not least, the point that I want to sort of say my goodbye with is that 50% of our human resource in this country is female. Okay, 49% when it comes to India, unfortunately, but it's about half of India's HR resource is female. It is lying unutilized. That is the greatest argument for the whole country as a whole. Men and women to together work to make sure that women become part of the workforce. Because otherwise, we're never going to beat China. So if you want to take over the dragon, you have to bring in the entire population, cajole it into the workforce, and not end up losing half the population that just doesn't get the opportunity because of whatever reason. So I think that is the biggest argument in favor of getting women into the mainstream, getting women into the workforce, empowerment, and men should work towards it, because they also want to get a GDP, they also want to return on their stocks. So it's in everybody's interests for our country to do better, and in order for us to do better, we need to move participate in all walks of life, including but not limited to cinema.
Basically women ruling over men, and it's not looking at the fact that it's equality in all standpoints, where you're allowing the men to, like a man can cook, a man can be a stay-at-home father, that's what he wishes to do. And for that reason, I really applaud the effort, because by putting it as united by half, you're really making a standpoint. Now, I have a couple of points. One about talking about the socio-cultural impact that is is imposed upon us by the patriarchal society. I think it goes all the way back to the time of conception when, if you're looking at
काम आती हैं, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ बहुत सी ऐसी महिलाएं हैं जिन्हें अपना शेयर जो उन्हें मिलना चाहिए, जो उनके अधिकार हैं जो उन्हें मिलने चाहिए, मिलते नहीं हैं. तो मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. आई एम वेरी वेरी हैप्पी टू सपोर्ट द यूनाइटेड कलर्स ऑफ बेनेटॉन United by Half campaign. I think it's a fantastic campaign and I congratulate them for having taken this step towards corporate responsibility to push something which is so important in a society like ours.
कहीं ना कहीं देश में आज भी महिला और पुरुष में काफी फर्क देखा जाता है, कभी दिखाया जाता है कि आगे महिला वैसे है, पुरुष है.
There is a procession has been done. एक गर्ल है तो पिंक होना चाहिए.
मेरा ये मानना है कि अगर हमें समाज में कोई भी बदलाव लेकर आना है तो उसके लिए पहले बातचीत करनी होगी उस मुद्दे पर, शायद वाद होगा, विवाद होगी, उसके बाद ही कोई तब्दीली आएगी. और इस बात में कोई शक नहीं है कि हमारे यहाँ जो आधी जनसंख्या है हमारी, जो महिलाओं की गिनती है, अगर वहाँ से उस दृष्टिकोण से देखा जाए तो शायद बहुत सी ऐसी महिलाएं हैं जिन्हें अगले क्षण वो क्या करेंगी ये भी चुनने का हक नहीं है. तो बाकी दूसरे बड़े बड़े हकों की बात करें तो शायद लंबी बात है, पर बेसिक कहाँ जाना है, कितना पढ़ना है, किससे शादी करनी है, ये भी उन्हें अधिकार नहीं है चुनने का. तो मेरा ये मानना है कि हम जितनी भी कैंपेन्स ऐसी करें, ये उस मुद्दे को और उछालेंगी, और जैसे जैसे ये मुद्दा और उछलेगा तो ही आने वाले सालों में हमें तब्दीली दिखाई देगी.
Talk about the women empowerment. Don't you think the Bollywood movies have played a greater role to spread the all message to all the girl in the Mumbai and all the country?
I think Bollywood is a very, very powerful medium. It has the potential to propagate ideas, to push change while entertaining the audience. And I think if that can be done with the clear intent of entertaining first and then putting together a powerful message, whatever that message may be, I think we will see change come in society sooner rather than later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
United by Half, which is a campaign by United Colors of Benetton on women empowerment. And the whole idea of United by Half is the idea that women are claiming their half. So we don't want to be better than men, we don't want more than men, but we want to be equal to men. And I think it's a very important campaign. I think it's also very relevant today. It's a global conversation. And and it means that men and women need to work together rather than separate from each other.
बल्कि किस तरीके से देखते हैं और ये डिफरेंस को मेल और फीमेल के जिस तरीके से आज के टाइम में किया जाता है कि हमेशा वुमेन्स को एक मेल से छोटा माना जाता है, छोटा कहा जाता है, जैसे गांव एरिया में या किसी भी एरिया में, तो आप आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे सर?
क्या
परसिस्टेंस हैज बीन डन इन इंडिया दैट एक लड़की है तो उसको पिंक ही पहनना चाहिए और एक लड़का है तो
वो स्टेरियोटाइपिंग बहुत है, एब्सोल्युटली मेल और फीमेल जेंडर स्टेरियोटाइपिंग बहुत है. और क्या होता है कि जब फीमेल्स को स्टेरियोटाइप करते हैं, वो बोलते हैं कि लड़की को ऐसे काम नहीं कर सकती है, वो मोटर बाइक नहीं राइड कर सकती है, ऐसे जब हम कहते हैं वो ऑटोमेटिकली मेल स्टेरियोटाइपिंग भी होता है कि लड़का मर्द होना चाहिए, माचो होना चाहिए, उसको मतलब रोना नहीं चाहिए. और ये लिमिटेशंस हो जाता है सोसाइटी में. क्यों एक लड़की फुटबॉल नहीं खेल सकती, क्यों एक लड़का आर्टिस्ट नहीं बन सकता है. तो आई थिंक इट्स वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट कि ये बदल सकते हैं हम. एंड आई थिंक वो कॉन्वर्सेशंस हो रहे हैं, धीरे धीरे बदल रहा है और लोगों सोच रहे हैं इसके बारे में. तो कभी एक फिल्म होता है जैसे पीकू, जहाँ पे दीपिका पादुकोण इज द मेन हीरो ऑफ द फिल्म. वो तो हीरो है. कोई ऑफन जब मैं कोई फिल्म कर रही हूँ, लोग मुझे पूछते हैं हीरो कौन है फिल्म में, तो लाइक मार्गरीटा विद अ स्ट्रॉ में मैं बोलती हूँ मैं ही हीरो हूँ. तो वो बहुत ज़रूरी है कि फीमेल हीरोइंस भी है, मेल हीरोज़ भी है, कि हम इक्वल है, हम सब इंसान है पहले, उसके बाद हम एक मेल या लड़का या लड़की है, लेकिन पहले हम इंसान हैं. फॉक्स ट्रैवलर पे एक बाइक शो किया था मेरे पापा के साथ, और वो भी एक जेंडर स्टेरियोटाइप ब्रेक किया हमने, क्योंकि लोग सोचते हैं कि लड़की बाइक पे नहीं जाती है. एंड इट वाज थ्रू नॉर्थ ईस्ट, वो भी क्योंकि हम ज़्यादा नॉर्थ ईस्ट को एक्सप्लोर नहीं करते हैं मेरे हिसाब से, और वो बहुत खूबसूरत जगह है. तो हमने असम, अरुणाचल प्रदेश और मेघालय में ट्रैवल किया था.
वैलेंटाइन भी आ रहा है, सो व्हाट्स योर वैलेंटाइन प्लान्स के बारे में क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
वैलेंटाइन प्लान्स मैं शूट कर रही हूँ गोवा में फॉर माई वेब सीरीज स्मोक. तो मुझे पता नहीं, शायद एक सीक्रेट लवर मुझे अच्छा कुछ भेज देगा, पता नहीं क्या होगा. और शायद मैं भेज सकती हूँ किसी को सीक्रेटली, मैं सीक्रेटली करूँगी.